Hey, this is Dave Blair coming at you from DaveBlairMusic.com, and today we're gonna look at a really cool pedal. I'm excited about this one because I'm digging this pedal. This is one of my. Usually I'm like, hey, this is good. You know, I would use it. I think this one is a little bit more interesting than that. We have a Thorpy Gunshot. So this is a company out of the UK, and pretty much all he does right now, he has 4 different overdrive type of pedals, overdrive slash muff type, because he has a muff room cloud, which we'll be doing another demo of, and then 3 different levels of overdrive, the Peacekeeper, which is like a low gain, the Gunshot, which is like a mid to high gain, and then there's a Warthog, which is like really high gain. So at some point we'll probably get to demo all of those, but right now we're looking at the Gunshot. So let's get right to it. There's a few other demos out there that give you a little more details about the manufacturer and stuff like that. He's got a military background, and the specs on these are phenomenal. They're not cheap. These are about $300, and you got to order it from the UK. It'll take about a week to get to you. So it's probably one of the most expensive overdrive pedals out there, but it's arguably one of the best. I mean, let's find out. Let's find out. So right now, one thing you need to know about this pedal is that it has 2 gain controls. There's basically a gain control, which kind of just gives it typical gain, and then it boosts kind of the mids, and then it also has what he calls the caliber, which kind of gives it a lot of bottom and some top. It kind of fills it out. So I found that some kind of combination of the two give you something cool, and it's very flexible as far as the different sounds you could get with those 2 controls. Plus, it has a tone control and obviously a volume. So let's start right now. I'm just going to have the gain alone around 10 o'clock. So here's a clean sound, Two-Rock Emerald Pro. It's the lead channel, but it's kind of on a cleaner setting for it. So put the Thorpy on there. Now keep in mind, that's just the one gain. So let's pull in that caliber also around 4 o'clock on the dial. Notice right away it's got a fuller, richer sound. So actually I'm going to hold out a chord and move it just so you can see how it comes in. So that's, kind of like for this pedal, a lower gain setting. So let's push up that gain about 12 o'clock. And we'll push the caliber up to 12 o'clock. We can't really try every combination with one's lower and one higher, but I'll start to dial in kind of where I like it. So both gain and caliber, just about 12 o'clock. Yeah, it's got a nice fullness, but it's got that bite, and you balance those 2 controls. It's just it's really a smooth sound, but it's got some. It's obviously aggressive. It's just a really even nice sound. It really works, and it's not trying to be a TS9. It's not trying to be a Klon. It's or Blues Breaker or any of those standard circuits. It's just a really good sound. I had this cranked at a gig, and usually when you crank certain overdrive pedals, there's always some kind of frequency that kind of, it's like, you got to watch out for, because it could get a little harsh or whatever, uneven sounding. And this is really smooth. nice. I mean, it's just the notes sing. It's not harsh. It's even. Let me push up these the gain and the caliber to about 1 o'clock. And notice every time you move the caliber control, because it's kind of a bias control, it creates a crackle, and that's just the way it works. That's normal. That's the way, it has to do that because it's changing the bias. So. And that's what a neck pickup, so it usually gets muddy there. Let me push that gain a little bit up. So I pushed the gain up till about 3 o'clock. The gain is pretty high, but it's still So I'm playing a bunch of complex chords, like 7 chords and stuff. And notice, even with this really high gain setting, it's not totally messing up the chord. You can still hear the notes on the chord clearly, and they blend really nice. It's touch sensitive too. It's still maintaining some decent dynamics, and I don't even have the gain all the way up. So let's push the gain all the way up and see what we get. Do some leads up at on the neck position. Wow. I'm going to push. Now, that was the gain all the way up. And the caliber about 1. Let's push the caliber up. pull the volume back just to even it out. And still, the tones, I haven't even messed with the tone yet. Now it's starting to get really compressed and fuzzy. So now I've got all the controls just about 1 o'clock, which is kind of where I was gigging at and seemed to give me the best of all the worlds. Pretty high gain, and I can always back it off a little bit. And it worked. I could stack another pedal on top of it to go into a lead. So let's try that. Clean amp. It's kind of, you get that angry sound. Listen to the sustain. I'm being funny, but it's... It's got a bite and it has a singing sustain to it, but it also has some... So the chords blend. Doing minor 9s and minor 11s, and you're still kind of hearing. Really cool, really cool. I'm gonna just throw, just for fun, I'm gonna take this sound, I'm gonna throw a BB, exotic BB preamp on top of it, just kind of for a lead boost, and see how they stack. So here's just the throw the BB on top. Cool, it stacks pretty cool. You don't even need to stack it. You could just, play it like this and just kind of. It's a badass pedal, I can tell you. For fun, let's push the tone control a little bit farther up. Get the tone control at about 3 o'clock. I mean, I wouldn't really put the mid that high normally, but I think everything around 1 o'clock kind of works for me because it gives me a high gain, but it doesn't start getting. And I could even, let's try the caliber up more. So gain around a little past 1 and the caliber about 3. It's a little fuller, richer sound. Push that, push a little too much, it starts compressing and fuzzing, which you may want for certain things, but for most of your set, if you're doing rock, you want it somewhere in the middle where you're not getting overly compressed. For fun, I'm just gonna put the caliber all the way up. Just, put everything around 3 o'clock. Notice there, it starts really compressing, so you lose some of your rock and rollness from it. Might be good for a singing lead or something, or a fuzzy octave thing. But I think for usability, you're throwing this shit around. I found the sweet spot after gigging, just for me, around 1 o'clock, and give or take. You start going too extreme, you get extreme sounds, which are all totally usable if you're doing something a little more experimental or something. I mean, that's rock and roll. So it's a really flexible pedal. You have that mid-bite TS9 kind of thing, but it's definitely not sounding like a TS9. But that once you pull that caliber in, you get a richness on the top, a complexity and harmonics, and the bottom. So you can, and you can blend it any way you want. So if you want a little more bottom. Badass. Okay. Overall, I give this one like a lot of 5 stars or whatever. This thing is a madman. Really flexible. Just the sound is it takes it to another level. Possibly. I don't know. I mean, we'll do another shootout with a couple other pedals, maybe usual suspects like an Angry Charlie and stuff, which is its own thing. But right now, this is my main overdrive pedal on the board, and then I'll maybe throw something on after it for a lead boost. But this thing, I mean, it's a lot of money. If you're just playing in your basement, then it's probably not worth it. There's a lot of other pedals that you can get to give you a really good overdrive sound. If you're playing in a garage band. But if you're doing recording sessions, if you're playing out live every week, and you want just a badass rock overdrive pedal, I can't see it going wrong with this. And if you're looking for a very specific sound, like a TS9 honky mid-range sound, or if you're looking for a Klon type thing, it's not that. It's just a really good, really great overdrive sound, as you could hear, and then, and it's quite flexible. So I could see using just this in the studio and pushing it for overdrive, pushing caliber up to do certain kind of singy leads, and then backing off to get a little crunchier, and somewhere in the middle to get a little more heavy metalish type of rock thing. All of them work. So that's what you get when you pay attention to quality. And all the Thorpy pedals kind of have this hi-fi type of sound. It's just really even, no compromises. Really works when I get to the muffler cloud. That thing is a monster as well. I balked a little bit. It's like, really, $300 for an overdrive pedal, but let me try it because I hear it's so really good, and could always throw it up on eBay if it's not all it's cracked up to be. And this one's not going on eBay. This one's a keeper. This is badass, and I own tons of overdrive pedals that are all around, and this thing's a badass mofo. I can't wait to hear some recordings I do with it and keep using it at live shows, because it's just I've been using it at a few different gigs, and it's one of the few where it's like, yeah, you step on it and it's like, yeah. And we even did like a low volume trio gig, and usually distorted things at a low volume, it's get meh. And this thing, it just still had a rich, sounded like a cranked amp, even at a very low volume with like a quiet trio in a restaurant. It still really rocked. And right now the volume on this is very low. It gives you that rich harmonics. It gives you a bite. It gives you really aggressive with it now without it ever sounding harsh. It just really is smooth and pleasing to the ear, but angry too at the same time. It's not like dark, and it's not bright. It's just even, and it has a warmth, but it has a bite in a way that just like, I don't know how he does it, because most pedals, they're either a little too bright or a little too dark, but the darkness kind of warms it up, so it smooths it out, and blah, blah, blah. This is just like, you could dial it in where it's just like, you can't really get a bad sound out of it, even, I mean, if you crank everything and you put you go to some extreme setting, you might get something that's less usable, but I haven't heard anything where it's like, ooh, yeah, don't do that. You could tell, you could hear that it's the hi-fi components that he's using, and he's really attention to detail. It's just meant to be really good, and it is. And I'm very picky, very picky. So yeah, if it's not cheap, but I think these are one of the pedals that's gonna go down the way of like King of Tone and Klon, where years later they're going to be sought after. He's got to make these, I think, by himself, by hand, because there's such an attention to detail. I think he handpicks components to that extent. So I don't know if they'll ever be able to mass produce this. So I think it's almost like one of those pedals where it's an investment, where 5 years, 10 years down the road, there's only going to be a limited amount, and there's going to be a high demand because it's so good, and it's going to go up in price. And if he ever stops making it, it's going to skyrocket in price, because there's nothing else like it. Kind of like what the Klon did. And now the Klon has so many clones out there, you don't really need to get a Klon. Spend $2,000 for a Klon. But I think it'll be tricky for him to replicate this, to make a clone of this. It could be a really cool secret weapon, because not too many people in the U.S. Are aware of these. It's a UK company, and I didn't see too many demos, and I haven't seen anybody using it in the U.S. except for me. I'm sure there's other people using it, but it's not a common one these days. So I think this is one this is one that's going to be kind of go down with as a legendary status. I think like the Klon and King of Tone, where it's just like everybody wants one, and there's going to be a waiting list for him once it catches on. Even at the $300 price point, I think when I first bought a Klon, it was like $230, which I thought was crazy. But now they're selling for $2,000, so that's a market thing. I don't know if it's worth $2,000, but I think if you're a professional musician and you play a lot and you just want the best thing, instead of playing around with 10 different overdrive pedals, you get one of these. I mean, everybody has different tastes. Some people might like something else better for what sound you're trying to go for. But I think right now this thing is really kick some ass. It just really works. It's very even. It just and it's just fun to play. You could tell that when I'm playing with it on the demo, I was just kind of just having fun jamming and forgot that the camera is on, and that's instead of doing a demo, and that's a mark of a good piece of equipment. You're just enjoying playing it. It's just a blast to play through, and I look forward to playing certain songs with it on, and to see how it works. What kind of sound it gets, and how cool it sounds and feels. So I'm gushing. Now this thing is a mofo. The only thing is the price point is a lie. It's more than almost anything else out there that's a single pedal. But you get what you pay for. In this case, you do get what you pay for. Maybe the last overdrive you need. Probably not, because if you're a typical guitar player like me, you always want to try the different things. And it's also not just about quality, it's also about different sounds and variety for different things. But this is something that it just works. And I don't have any qualms about this. There's nothing that I could say, well, I wish it had more of this, or I wish it had more of that. It combines like a fullness, warmth, richness, but the bottom isn't muddy. It's tight. But and then you have the bite on it, and but the bite is never harsh. It's really smooth, and it can get crunchy, but it can get singy. It's a badass mofo. So that's what I have to say about the Thorpy Gunshot. This is done right. This is done right, and I gotta say it. There's so many great companies coming out these days, because pedals are so in vogue these days, and there's a new pedal company coming out every week, it seems. And I think some really high quality, one after another, I keep coming across. I think last year the Chase Bliss stuff was like the thing that caught my eye, as a relatively new company that was just doing stuff on another level, just taking it to the next level, doing some amazing stuff. And now Thorpy is the company, I think, this year that would get my Company of the Year award. Their stuff is just sick. Damn! That's my review.